Instructions to be followed by the participants. Dear participants, you are requested to mute your audio and video. Kindly do not share or present your screen. Using the presentation screen of the resource person to enjoy a clear view of the presentation screen. Kindly post your questions in the chat box to be discussed at the end of the session. Feedback link will be posted in the chat box at the end of the discussion session. I repeat, participants, you are requested to mute your audio and video. Kindly do not share or present your screen. Using the presentation screen of the resource person to enjoy a clear view of presentation. Kindly post your questions in the chat box to be discussed at the end of the session. Feedback link will be posted in the chat box at the end of the discussion session. Thank you. A warm afternoon to one and all gathered. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this webinar on Cultural Gap in Translation. I'm happy to welcome our resource person, Dr. Ramya Sambat, Assistant Professor of English, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Chennai. Thank you, ma'am, for accepting our invitation in your busy schedule. I also welcome the staff and students of the Department of English to this webinar. Instructions to be followed by the participants. Dear participants, you are requested to mute your audio and video. Kindly do not share or present your screen. Pin the presentation screen of the resource person to enjoy a clear view of the presentation. Kindly post your questions in the chat box to be discussed at the end of the session. Feedback link will be posted in the chat box at the end of the discussion session. Thank you. Let us begin the session by invoking the presence of God. Almighty and ever-loving Father, we praise and glorify your name. Dear God, as we stand before you, take what we have prepared and multiply our efforts as only you can. Help us to accomplish our vision as we have gathered here today with a purpose. We place our resource person, staff, and the participants in your mighty hands. Let your will be done through us. Let this webinar be a blessing to each one of us. Guide us in all walks of life. Steer our intentions to align with your righteous will. Keep us safe and guard our minds against all that is challenging. We ask for your presence to lead us throughout the session. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. May I now invite Ms. Onita, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Holy Cross College, to welcome the gathering.
This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. A bright and warm afternoon to everyone. On behalf of PG and Research Department of English, Holy Cross College, Trichy, it's my privilege to welcome you all to the webinar on cultural gap in translation. Literature speaks the language of imagination, and the study of literature is used to train and improve the imagination. I extend a cordial welcome to our Secretary, Reverend Sister Dr. Niranjana Andonisamy, and our dynamic Principal, Reverend Sister Dr. Christina Bridget, who has always been a pillar of support in all our endeavors. I warmly unfurl a red carpet welcome to our ever smiling and ever motivating Reverend Sister Dr. Judy Gomes, Vice Principal and Head of the Department of English. With immense pleasure, I welcome our resource person, Dr. Ramya Sambat, Assistant Professor, the Department of English and Foreign Languages, SRM University, Chennai. She has been working as a teacher since 16 years and now facilitating technical English for engineering students, and also handles gender studies and translation studies for postgraduate students in the Department of English and Foreign Languages at SRM Institute of Science and Technology. Ma'am completed a UG from Bharatidasan Government College for Women, Pondicherry, a PG and MPhil from Pondicherry University, and got a doctorate in SRM University, and her area of research was transgender studies. She has presented papers in various conferences and has published 9 articles in journals and 1 chapter in a book. She has also written 10 student learning materials for the students of distance education. She has also conducted many workshops for engineering college students and staff. She has completed 20 MOOC courses through Coursera, NPTEL, IIT Mumbai, and Future Learn. Adding to her credit, she has received an award titled Puduvaikku Pugal Sertha Penmani by Pondicherry government for being the first woman of Pondicherry who participated and won the second place in rock climbing competition held at Gwalior. Hearty welcome to you, ma'am. I extend a genial welcome to our committed band of professors of the Department of English for their constant support and guidance. I also extend my word of welcome to all my students of the Department of English, and I hope this seminar will lead you to a fruitful one. Once again, I welcome you all.
Thank you, Ms. Onita, for your warm words of welcome. May I now request the resource person, Dr. Ramya Sambat, to take over the session.
Thank you, one and all. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
At the outset, I'd like to thank my research scholar, Laura. It was she who initiated this work for me. She asked me, ma'am, are you willing to take up this? I said yes. So I thank her at the outset. And I, of course, thank Holy Cross Trichy for having given me this opportunity. Hope for the next 1 hour I'll be able to do justice for the task which I've taken. I might be a bit fast. If I'm so, please, you're always there to put it in the chat box to ask me to cut down my pace. Yes? Ma'am? Hello? Hello? Hello?
It's clear, ma'am. It's clear, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Someone just called me, so I thought there was some issue. Okay, ma'am.
Ma'am, you can start the session.
Yes, ma'am. I'll start it now. So I'll start to share my PPT now. If at all, if there's any issue, children, please feel free to contact me through the chat box. So the topic for the day is cultural gap in translation. Are you able to view my screen, children?
Yes, ma'am. It's clear.
Okay, thank you. Before I start my presentation, I want you all to look into what the pioneers, the experts in the field has said about what translation is. Jordan Turing, he is a pioneer who has laid out how translation theory has to go about, and this is what he has said. Translation is a kind of activity which inevitably involves at least two languages and two cultural traditions. And you have Peter Newman, who talks about culture and translation, and he's saying way of life and its manifestation that are peculiar to a community that uses a particular language as its means of expression. Newman talks about culture here, and Tori, he talks about translation. Anyway, throughout this presentation, we'll be looking at what translation is and how culture is into translation. Okay. Now, before we start something, let's do a kind of brainstorming work. Children, I just want you to type menti.com in another browser. I'm sure all of you would be using a mobile phone. You people are more tech savvy than us because you know how to use a gadget. So please open a screen called as, type this word menti.com, and on the screen you will be asked to type a code 75190. I'll just take you to the, if you're not able to do it, I'll take you to that. You can just follow what I'm doing now. Just type on your browser menti.com. Okay. So here, are you able to see my screen? In a similar way, you also will be getting your screen, children. Just see that. And here in the code place, I want you to type 75190. Yes? Shall I minimize my screen? What was the question you got, children? Was this question there for you? Yes. I do find words here. Mentalist. I couldn't get what you exactly want to convey through this. Translating, convert, words. Yes, can I expect few more words here? Good that you people are into this kind of technology because it keeps you pay attention to what is happening throughout the presentation. Convert, rendering, yes. Any other answers? Yes, languages, words, literature. translating. I'm actually asking you what is translation. So I get a word here, translating. Again, translation meaning in another language, key to new language. I'll just wait for a second and I'll just see how many of you feed in more words here, because I saw around 67 when I logged in participants. So I have only around 15 words here, if I'm right. Not even 15, 10 to 15. Okay. Okay. Anyway, thank you, children, for this. I'll move on to my presentation now, to my PPT. So the one which you saw right now is called as brainstorming, and it is actually a word cloud. It told us, it gave us an idea of what is your understanding on what translation is. Okay. So now we move on. Today's session is up to 4 o'clock. I don't know if I'll be able to complete it by then. I'm sure I'll not make you to sit to your phone up more than that, but still. We'll be looking at what is translation, what is translation studies, who are the pioneers in the field, what is cultural translation, and I'll be giving you an example from a literary text, because translation as it is cannot be understood just by talking. Okay, so we'll have to have an example. So I have taken an Arabic text and I'll be giving you citing examples from there, and there'll be a bit of take home for you. Let's see what it is. Okay. So translation, actually, it came around centuries or ages ago. Okay, I'm sure you would have come across, as people of literature, you would have come across the Bible translation. Yes. So the Pentagonist was the first one which was translated into. Martin Luther was initiated to do all that, and we have a Bible translation there, and written form is called as translation and spoken form is called as interpretation. Translation in the current arena, you have many inputs, like you have the Google Translator. Yes, but there's one drawback with Google Translator. What is it? The accent and the pronunciation. It is by, it goes with the American accent. When a student calls a teacher as ma'am, it types as mommy. Yes, it goes with the pronunciation. So translation, machine translation at times puts us into a heck. Yes, so there is a glitch when we always depend on technology. But earlier days, translation was done through written form. Actually, translation, interpretation was the first one which came in, because people wanted to exchange. They exchanged money, they exchanged because they wanted to survive. Interpretation actually started in when trade started. Yes, when people started to move from one place to another, at that time interpretation started. So they wanted to sell or buy whatever the other person has or whatever they had. So at that juncture, it was interpretation which began, and later when they felt that business can be done in such vast horizons, they started to take up written documents. Okay, so translation came forth at the during a trade process, and they wanted to sign a lot of documents. Okay, so there were a lot of agreements also. You give me this, I'll give me that. So for all that, translation was required. When it came to writing and recording things, they use something called as translation. Okay, all this goes back to ages. Now for translation, even when you take up slide, Google slide, okay, now you have something called as slide translator. As I talk, okay, the voice will be captured and it's going to type it there for me. I need not do the typing work. I can translate it into whichever form I want to. I can just select the language and it will translate. Okay, so there's computer assisted translation, there's machine translation, yes, and there's also interpretation, where a human being is going to speak, yes, either through verbal language or through sign language. So that is called as interpretation. So this is basically the background of translation and interpretation. Now, translation, there are a lot of definitions for that. This is actually a kind of communication. translation, we are going to talk about written translation. Okay, written form. Translation itself is written. Okay, so we'll be talking about it, how it is used using communication. So there's something called as source language and target language. In translation, there are a lot of terms which you'll have to understand. One is SL and the other is TL. SL is source language and TL is target language. Source language is the original text in whichever language it is, and target language is to whichever it has to be converted into. Okay, that is the target language. SL and TL. The language aspect is called as that, and when it comes to text, it is called as source text to target text. Source text to target text. Okay, what is the purpose? Why are we going to translate? Remember, I told you it was Bible was translated. Yes, so in order to make people understand how effective or how to feel, to enjoy, okay, to spread awareness of somewhere God is there to take care of us, to teach God's words, to preach God's words. Yes, for all those purposes, Bible was translated. It is not that only one particular community should enjoy. No, the entire human fraternity should enjoy. They should know what are the words of God. They have to understand it and they have to live by those words, because He's going to protect us. So based on all this, translation work was done. I'm just giving you one example, which all of us are very much aware. And not only Bible, when you take up Indian epics, okay, even that has been translated. And in fact, the Ramayana, which was originally written in Sanskrit, it was later translated into Tamil by Kambar. It is called as Kamba Ramayanam. There is a record saying that Kambar, during daytime, he used to learn Sanskrit, understand whatever is there in the source text, and then take it to the target language, target text, that is Tamil. During night times, he used to sit and render it into Tamil. I just came around with this article. I just read it and I really felt how a translator should behave. There was no rules or regulations when Kambar wrote the work. He just imbibed everything. A writer, especially a person of literature, should imbibe all those qualities. Whenever you're giving a written work, it should stand the test of time. For example, here I've used the word the original tone. Maybe Kambar wanted to retain that original tone, yes, into the language which he is going to translate. Okay. So the other purpose is to taking into account the cultural and regional differences. You have to understand to whichever language you're going to translate. You have to understand the cultural aspect, the social background, their way of lifestyle. Everything should be taken into consideration. Only then you'll have to translate. It's not just like that. Okay, I see a poem there on the screen. I wish to translate it. You cannot do that. We can enjoy a poem. We can understand the poem. But when it comes to translation, you have to understand the author's intention, the purpose behind it. Why did he write the poem? Okay, to who are his audience, which area, which particular era he belonged to. Okay, so that's why we have a lot of movements in literature, isn't it? So based on that, you are supposed to render the translated work. Okay, so the culture and regional differences play a vital role. Before starting to write, the author should understand what is there in the target language or in the among the target culture. Okay, so to put it very simple, translation is to replace one written language with another without changing the meaning for mutual understanding. You're not supposed to change the meaning of it, but you have to make the reader understand what the original work is saying. Okay. Now, what is translation studies? This translation studies actually evolved only in 1950s and 60s. That too because of the American scholar James S. Holmes. Okay, it was he who initiated to bring out the theories, to lay a format of how the text should be translated. Before that, I just want you to ask one question, children. You keep this in your mind, okay? The thing is, teacher in the literature classroom, teacher teaches us sonnet, how many lines it should be there, what is the rhyme scheme, lyric, what is the rhyme scheme, what is the pattern, what is iambic. They teach us all this metric or rhythmic pattern, okay? And they give you 1 hour time and they ask you to write 2 poems. Will you be able to do justice? Will your thought flow come in the process? Okay, if it is sonnet means only these many lines. If it is iambic pentameter, I should go with this rhyme scheme. Will you be able to keep all this in mind and write? Or, as Wordsworth says, it's spontaneous overflow of emotion. You just start writing, isn't it? So, I just want you to keep this in mind, because translation is a kind of work where the author loses his individuality. Remember Roland Barthes, the author, the death of the author. Something happens here in a translated work. The author is not able to show his originality. He's lost. You can even know this word, lost in translation. Usually the content would be lost in translation according to critiques. But what I would say is the author himself is lost during the process of translation. Okay. So I just want you to understand that when you're translating a text from one source language to target language, there are a lot of theories which Holmes and many pioneers have developed. Maybe they would have done it with an intention that something soulful might take place. But when it comes to present criteria, where all of us know everyone's culture, though not 100%, we'll at least know to some extent. He wanted it because they would have given the theory because people are doing it handwritten. But now we rely everything on system or technology. Okay, so it's actually an interdisciplinary study. Why? Because you can take up science work and translate. You can take up maths and translate, provided you know the terminologies or technology behind it. Okay, and I've used the word translation, interpreting, and localization. Okay, so what is, I told you translation and interpretation. What is localization? Localization is the local color. Okay, trying to associate it with the target language. Yes, trying to minimize it to the maximum extent where the audience will understand. Okay. Okay, James Holmes was the first person who coined this term translation studies, and it was after him that it came during 1950s and 60s. It came into universities. It was University of Iowa who first gave this as a subject of translation studies, and because of this paper only, the paper title, The Name and Nature of Translation Studies, there was a light towards this which we are doing right now. Now, on the screen, I don't want you to think too much. I've given something for you. Let's give a try. Iduvum kadandu pogum aanal eduvum marandu pogadu. What I want you to do is, I want you to translate this and give it to me in the chat box. Okay, can I see the chat box now? Then, are you iduvum kadandu pogum aanal eduvum marandu pogadu? I want you to translate this. I would like to have your answers in the chat here. Everything passes away, but nothing fades away. Okay. This too shall pass, but it cannot be forgotten. Yes, but will not be forgotten. This too shall pass, nothing will be forgotten. See, for one, I just gave you 2 sentences. Till now, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different types of translations. Yes? According to you, you are the author for the translation now. According to you, this translation is correct. It renders meaning. Yes? Target audience for whom the target text is going to go, they will understand whatever the translator says. So the translator should do justice. They should not try to, as I told you, they should not try to put in their own ideas or thoughts into it. Okay. Thank you for the response in the chat box. I'll go back to my PPT. That was not to give you any right or wrong answers. It was just to give a try to make you understand that translation is not that easy. And I'll move on. These are the pioneers in the field of translation. I have just given you only 7 of them here. There are many people, and I have ordered, of course, in the chronological order. Jean-Paul Binet and Jean Dabelnet, they are French linguists and translation scholars. Eugene A. Nida, an American translation scholar. Peter Newmark, of course, his words from British. I find 2 or 3 people who are pioneers, women pioneers in translation studies. Okay, and Jordan Torrey, he's an Israeli. His saying also, with his saying only, I started my PPT. And by chance or by luck, I have put Jean-Paul Vinay and Jean Dabelnet, French translation theorist, on the front, and it is their concept which I am going to use in cultural translation today. Okay, so Eugene A. Nida, he came out with a idea called as equivalence, dynamic and formal equivalence in the field of translation. Children, I'm sure when I spoke to your ma'am, she told me that you just have one unit on translation. You don't have translation studies as a separate paper. So I just don't want you to feed in lot of information today. Though I've given you the pioneers, as I told you, I will just take Paul Vinay and Jean Dabelnet concept alone. Okay, there are many others who have contributed towards translation. Maybe when you take up a detailed study, you'll be able to understand their theories. Okay, I'll move on. Now, cultural translation. Okay, so whenever you are going to translate, okay, a text, you have to you have to also give importance to the culture and social aspects. So what are those cultural and social aspects? One is food. You have to, if they're talking about food, you have to talk about the food. Then clothes, names, okay, proper names or titles, religious terms and mythology, idiomatic terms and proverbs, plans and flowers. Okay, so these are the concepts when it comes to cultural translation. Imagine you're going to take up a work, you're going to see what are the cultural aspects there, how we are going to translate it. Okay, that cultural translation should stand or should be really effective. I'll just give you one example. If you are going to take up a PhD research, okay, and you are going to work on religious texts, okay, and you have made up your mind, you're going to talk about religion and religious texts. You know what will be the first question for you by your doctoral committee member or by the experts there? They'll ask you, you've taken up religion, it's a very controversial term, will you be able to do justice? Then we have to answer. We'll be confident, no, because it is our area. Yes, I can do. Again, there'll be another question. They'll ask you, what is your religion? Hinduism. What religion you're going to talk about? Another religion which you're not part of it. They'll say, did you live in that religion? Do you experience each and every word what that text has said? Are you going to read it? No. You are going to take whatever others have said on that. So the content or the exact meaning is lost there. So the first advice which the committee members will wish, don't touch that area because it's very sensitive and you will not do justice. Imagine for a research scholar who is going to take up that work and just do a research on one concept or two concepts, there will be a lot of issues. Imagine for a translator, he has to deal with it in a very sublime manner. Okay, so translate a text is not that easy. I just gave you one example here. Okay, and as I told you, food, clothes, I'll give you examples now. Food, clothes, names of people, the proper nouns, religious terms and mythology, idiomatic terms and proverbs, plants and flowers. Certain things you can give a new name, you can translate it. Certain things you'll have to use it as it is because we will not find that in our vocabulary, okay, in the target language vocabulary. Okay, so cultural translation is based on these aspects only. Okay, I'll move on. Now, as I told you, I'll be taking up Jean-Paul Vinay and Jean Dabelnet's concept, direct translation technique and oblique translation technique. These are the two techniques formulated by them. Okay, so oblique is otherwise called as gloss translation also. Here, direct translation is, it can be used when structure and conceptual elements of the source language can be transposed into the target language, when you can use the structure and concept of the language as it is. What do you mean by language as it is here? You can say the SVO pattern, right? Subject, verb, object. Okay, I'll give you one example. Again, you need an answer now. Just keep it in your mind or try to answer. Now, I did not go to college today. Okay, this is my English sentence. If I'm going to translate it, now I did not go to college today. Today comes in the last of the sentence. Yes, it ends the sentence. Whereas if I'm going to translate into Tamil, I'll be saying நான் இன்னைக்கு இல்ல இன்றைக்கு கல்லூரிக்கு செல்லவில்லை. Okay, my not comes in the end when I translate. Yes, so the structure changes. So here they're talking about direct translation techniques. When you're not able to change the structure, you can use such techniques like borrowing, clap, and literal translation. These are the three translation techniques which is used or which is coined by Jean-Paul Venay and Gabelnet. And the next one, as I told you, is oblique translation technique. Oblique na தமிழ்ல சாய்ந்து சார்ந்து உங்களால துல்லியமா translate பண்ண முடியலன்னா இப்படி பண்ணி ஆகணும். ஓகேவா? There are few. Sorry for being bilingual to make you understand, because it's translation. I feel I have the liberty to be bilingual there. Okay. When the source language cannot be translated to the target language without altering the grammatical structure or style, oblique translation techniques must be used. Whatever you do, if you're not able to change the entire word, you have to use as it is. When you take up a lot of Indian writers, okay, when they're going to talk about the Indianness in it, they'll use the Indian words there. Okay, they'll not try to take up any English word there. When they take an English word and try to explain it to you, the essence is lost. Here I like to quote Kamal by his joke where he says, என்ன சொன்னா அனுபவிக்கணும், I just forgot. Can anyone help me out there? ஆராயக்கூடாது அனுபவிக்கணும், he'll be telling, no? Can anyone help me there with that? Kamal's joke. பழமொழி சொன்னா அனுபவிக்கணும், ஆராயக்கூடாது. Yes. So when translation is going to do such kind of just tearing it up, taking it apart, the essence of it is lost. Okay. In such cases, don't touch the grammar or structure. You can go to this oblique translation method. So oblique translation method, there are 4 types. One is transposition, modulation, equivalence, and adaptation. Okay. So direct translation, how many techniques? 3: borrowing, clap, and literal translation. The second one is oblique translation. Under that we have 4. They are transposition, modulation, equivalence, and adaptation. Okay, move on. Again, I just want you to go to Mentimeter and type this 770492. You want me to tell the code again?
Ma'am, you can post the code in the chat box so that they can
one
keep the number.
It is like famous translation works from our country. I'll just go to the code again. 770492. I'll post it in the chat. Wait. 770492. Okay. I'll see how many of you are responding. Huh? You needn't, I have given you 3 options. You need not give me 3 answers. Okay. Maybe 1 is enough. Per person, 1 is enough. Tirukural, 10. Ramayanam, Bible. Apart from this epic, is there anything else apart from religious texts? Shakuntala by Kalidasa, yes. Tiruvasagam, yes. Any other answers? Bharatiya's works, yes, a compilation. Okay, so thank you children for this. I'll just move on to my slide now. Um, so our country also has ample translated works. As I told you, I started with Kamba Ramayana, where we did not have any rules or regulations, but still, as a person, to give it to the target audience, he contributed his to his fullest. Okay. Now, this is a little bit of fun. What happens when people try to translate or acquire language? Just read this. I'll just give you 2 minutes of time. Go through this. Pick up the paper and fall in the dustbin, which means the word put should be there. Both of you stand together separately. Why are you looking at the monkeys outside when I am inside? Okay. Will you hang the calendar on, or else I will hang myself? I have 2 daughters, both are girls. Give me a blue pen of any color. The principal is revolving in the corridor. Revolving in the corridor. Okay. All of us are not able to see this because of this. What is there? Okay. The principal is revolving in the corridor. All of you stand in the straight circle. Okay, there's something else there which I'm not able to see anywhere. So we need to think about epic and literary text for translation. Just see this. Appropriate choice of words. Instead of fall, what should be there? There should be put it in the dustbin. Put should be there. When a translator is translating, appropriate choice of words is very, very important. Even here, the culture and social aspect play a vital role. Okay. How, to what extent is, if any of you have gone to Thailand, visited Thailand, or if you're planning to do so, remember to keep this in mind. If your friend is living there in Thailand, or if he is a person native of Thai, you cannot give him a Buddha statue as a gift. That's their culture, because they feel Buddha is a god for them, and they cannot take that god from anyone who just comes into their home. Okay, and nowadays you have this Buddha image in all our dresses. Yes, so even that you're not supposed to carry and go when you're going to Thai. Okay, which means they feel you are disrespecting their god or their belief. Okay, so that much importance is given when it comes to culture. Imagine when a person is going to write, what all will happen. Okay, so I'll move on. Open the windows, let the air force come in. Let the air with heavy force come in. That should be the sentence. Okay. Now I move on to the text. The author here is Ulfat Idilibi. Has anyone read this work? Can I see it there in the chat if anyone has read? Just say yes or no. Have you read this work? No. Okay. Anyway, this at least we come to know about one text. Okay, don't know the entire novel thoroughly. We'll at least know if this person has written it and what it is all about. Okay. So she has written another work also, From Damascus to Beirut. Yes, yesterday we did have a very sad incident which happened there. Okay. So this is actually Sabriya, Damascus Bitter Sweet. The original work is Damaskia Basmat Al Hussein. If I'm reading it wrong, Muslim people, if you're there, I'm extremely sorry for that, because I do not know to pronounce the exact word. Again, this is a problem with people who are going to translate. Okay, this is published in 1980. Okay, the original work, but Peter Clark translated it only in 2003. Okay, so see the time gap which is there. In 1995, there was one translation, but that was not that much welcome because there were a lot of issues there. Okay, okay, she is supposed to be a very famous novel writer. People who are into MA project or MPhil research or your thesis work, you can think of such writers, okay, Arab women writers, because that will give you more opportunities. No one would have worked on it. Okay, I'll move on. Peter Clark, he's a translator. He's of course an English author, and he translated it in 2003, and he called it as Sabria, Damascus, because Damascus is actually a place in Syria, a very beautiful place. And this is a novel all about. It takes place in the capital city of Syria. It depicts the social and political events in the critical period of 20th century, especially during 1920s. See, 1920s, what was depicted there, the same thing prevails even in 2020. Imagine the plight of the people there, okay, for decades or centuries, okay. It is actually a story within a story. It is narrated from first person point of view. Just read this. I actually have a set of 5 Syrian students. It was they who impressed me to read this. Okay, so every time the girl used to tell me about Damascus, I used to really be happy, and I really wanted to read this work, and I read this, and somehow it just helped me to take it to this presentation today. Now moving on to the theory aspect, I told you I'll be looking at Paul Benai's translation techniques, isn't it? So direct translation is of 3 types I told you: borrowing, Clark, and literal translation. Luckily, there is no Clark which is used by the author here, maybe as far as I read, okay? So I'm just, I was able to find out borrowing and literal translation here. Borrowing, we know, we are very much familiar with the word borrowing. Here, there are a lot of French words, Latin words, German words in English itself, yes? The word resume is not an English word, it is a French word, yes? Similarly, we borrow words, and literal words is word for word translation. The one which I showed you right now, let us try, okay? Iduvum kadandu pogum, anal eduvum marandu pogadu. If you're going to translate it word by word, the sentence structure will not be there, the essence will not be there, okay? Everything would be lost. But again, that also can be followed, because if there's no other, go. The example for borrowing from the novel, I'm not going in detail, I'm just trying to look at the 1 or 2 examples alone, okay? Actually, the category here, I told you name, right? The name they have used, Sabria, it's the name of the heroine. No changes can be done there, it's used as Sabria itself, okay? And the food item here, again, you have borrowed the food item name, you cannot change that, okay? So it's just Namora. This is what is called as Namora. You are borrowing as it is. Remember, in research methodology, they would have taught us, if you are going to use the Indian terms, you should give it in italics. I have not given it in italics here, but still I'm telling it to you. When a writer is going to use the original word which is there in the source text, he can take it to the target text because he cannot find a new word. In such cases, he has to give it within, he has to give it in italics, okay? And moving on, literal translation, again, no, they try to relate it, okay? So here, when it comes to clothes, the original term is amama, and it is translated as turban. Literally, it is translated. They are not trying to do anything, okay? Plants, literal translation is dahlia, kodi mari poi. If it is going to give flowers, they translate it into trellis. Whatever is relevant in the target text culture, that they have given it in literal translation, okay? The next one is transposition, which means changes happen in the structure and syntax. Where does the change happen? In the sentence and in the structure and syntax, okay? So it is replacing a word class. For example, if you have studied word formation, they would have told you the word conduct is verb. When you add or, it becomes noun, conductor, yes? So the word class or the form of the word changes, yes, from one form to the other. Such kind of changes happens because they are, you will not be able to find a appropriate word. When this will happen when it comes to idioms. I'm sure not only in Arab language, even from Tamil to English or from English to Tamil, when a teacher asks you to translate a proverb, can you do it just like that in a jiffy? You'll be looking for words, yes, in order to make it meaningful, yes. So here is an example for transposition. Transposition is structure and syntax. And modulation, it is nothing but replacing an item from the source text by another different phrase to convey the same idea without altering the meaning, okay? Here, The original term is sharwal. The translated one is baggy trousers. Okay. Now you can, if you ask as Indians, what will you say? Punjabi style pant. You go to the tailor and ask him to stitch one, and if you show him this, he'll say Punjabi style, isn't it? So, or nowadays there's another term called as loose pants. It depends. Okay. So we are not giving the exact name. We are not borrowing. We are not trying to give a literal translation, but we are trying to modulate it. We are trying to tell whatever is there in our language or in the target text, target language that we are going to, that we are using. Okay. And now equivalence. Yes. Again, it is similar to modulation, but there's a very slight change where you'll be completely changing the structure and the stylistic method. So here, the original term is ila janam almara. Here it is translated into to hell. Yes. There's also a lot of comedies in English, in Tamil movies. Okay. Iவ்வளோ பெரிய sentence இருக்கு, நீ நான் ஒரே ஒரு வார்த்தை தானே கேட்டேன். Vivek will be telling in one movie. Okay, translation. There are at times the words, because we're touching upon the structure and the stylistic method, even the words might reduce. Okay, this is equivalence. I'll move on to it. Equivalence, because we are not trying to find a appropriate word. Adaptation is you're supposed to, again it is similar to modulation, trying to equate it somehow, somewhere or the other. Though not the exact object or the word. Okay, here it is sujkot is actually sausage. It is their kind of dish. You can, from the color and this thing itself, you'll be able to understand. We are somehow trying to correlate it. We are just trying to bring in a kind of equivalence. Okay, so this is here sausages. It may be used in a situation where the source language does not exist in the target language, because such whatever product we are the Arabic people are having, that is not there in the target language in English. So he's trying to just adapt it and show something which is there in his culture or tradition. Now, I'm sorry for making you to switch on tabs every now and then. Can you please move on to menti.com 5666? I just posted in the many aspects. Now we'll move on to the slide here. I'm sure now you'll be a bit angry on me. You never told us there'll be a test, but there's a test now for you, isn't it? Try to answer. Replacing the class of the word is transposition. Is it true or false? So then I'm not going to award you. No one is going to give you a grade. I do not know who is going to give, what to say, who has answered and who has not answered. Don't worry at all. Okay. True, 2 people have answered. 2, 4, 5, 7. 9, 10, okay, I have got only 12 responses. Anyway, yes, replacing the class of the word is transposition. I told you, no, changing from one form to the other is transposition. Okay, so here that's what has happened, and I'll move on to my PPT now. 1 minute. I think you would have got another question also, if I'm right. Okay, only 3. Okay, then I'll move on to my PPT. So take home for the day is, I'm sure you would have understood what translation is, what translation studies is, who are the pioneers in the field of translation. Remember, I told you about Eugene Neda, Jean Paul Vinay, I told you about Peter Newman. Yes, I told you there were two ladies whom I found out here, Catherine Rice and Susan Bassnett. Yes, these are the pioneers. There are many people, but I gave you only 7. I gave you the difference between translation and interpretation. Translation is written, interpretation is spoken. And translation studies, it came because of James S. Holmes during 1950s and 60s. Then you're talking about cultural translation. No translation will be effective unless the translator understands everything from the target text. Remember this saying, be in their shoes. Yes, to be in one's shoes. Only when you are there in his shoes, you will understand what it is. Similarly, a translator has to be in the target language shoes, understand it, and then write. Otherwise, the purpose will be lost. See, an entire work is translated so that it reaches a wider community. It is not just for the personal benefit of the translator. Okay. So I told you about the concepts. Cultural. When you talk about culture itself, we know it is going to be about food habits, their dressing habits, and all that, isn't it? And then the gap in translation. See, when you're not able to match all this, there's a lot of gap in translation, especially when it comes to culture, because there are many cultures, there are many styles of living. Yes, across the world, how many languages are there? Any guess? There are nearly 7,000 languages. Okay, this I'm talking about in a census which was taken in 2018. Okay, in India alone, they say that there are 121 languages. Okay, again, it's a source which I've read from a book, Indian Express. Okay, from a journal, from a newspaper articles. Okay, so there are many languages, but there are no scripts for many languages. But still, there has to be translation. Translation has to take place there. Interpretation will take place there. Okay, so if you have to do justice, you have to somehow try to patch up with all this. And a gap in translation again, not only when it comes to written form, I started by saying you that there are many technologies which has evolved, isn't it? I told you about machine translation, computer assisted translation, Google Translator, all this, you know what? Human has to feed in. Okay? Human, they have to feed in, okay, something called as computational linguistics. Have you heard about it? One which is it's like selling like hotcakes now. People, whoever we ask when they come for PhD interview, what is your area? Computational linguistics. They have to sit and write a whole list of words, feed it on the computer, and then it will say whether it's right or not. Okay, so machine translation, again, it depends upon the human being when they feed in the data or do the programming there. Okay, so there's a lot of issues when it comes to translation. It all can be met only when everything should be seen based on the cultural and social aspect. The entire text should be seen from the culture and social lens. Then the translation would be 100%. Whatever theories are there, whatever theorists have given, you can have you can go through, you can use them, but the 100% effectiveness will not be there in a translated work. I'll give you one more example here. If some of your friends who did not attend today's class or today's seminar, tomorrow they might ask you, hey, what happened? You might say, hey, sama bore and miss pannade periya vishayam ade best naala poi maatikten. That might be one perspective. The other perspective is, if you're really interested, at least one or two names you would say. You might not be saying Jean Paul Vinay. You might just say Vinay. First-hand information is lost. The person who listens for the first time gets the appropriate information. That first-hand information, that is the source text. That is very, very important. When you're translating it, of course, it loses its essence. Okay? When you're absent for the class, your teacher is giving you the input, first-hand information. When your friend is giving you the same information, either she might add something or she might miss out on something. So that is what happens actually in translation in very simple terms. So when it comes to culture, there are it's a very sensitive issue. It has to be taken care of from a very proper aspect. Okay, so now you also learnt about something called as an Arabic novel by the best Arabic woman writer. Okay, so this is all about today. This was a take home, and these are the references which I've used. I just want you to enjoy one more before I close. A minute. I'm sure you would have read, all of you would have seen this, but still. There's one more. Okay, thank you for watching this video. It is not to hurt anyone. It is not to pinpoint that they are making mistakes. It's just to make you understand how we are also aliens to English language. We have made it a language now. Even though we get our degrees, MA, MPhil, PhD, it's always a second language. I don't know how much justification we do when we pronounce a word or utter the words. So always the original has got its own relevance and goodness within it. I'd like to close again with Peter Newmark's quote: "A satisfactory translation is not always possible, but a good translator is never satisfied with it. It can usually be improved. I'm sure with the latest try example which I gave you, iduvum kadanda pogum, anal eduvum maranda pogadu. I'm sure you will be translating it the whole day today. You will be trying to find an exact translation for that. Those of you who missed to do it, you'll be doing it. That's going to be in your mind. Even if you've done it, you will want to rework on it. That is actually our mental setup, because we want to achieve something which is really perfect. Okay, so thank you for watching it till now, and I'm happy to hear questions from you. Okay, I'll stop sharing. I'll go to thank you so much, children, once again. I'll stop sharing now. I'll go to this. Yes,
Thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful presentation.
thank you, ma'am.
Let us now move on to the discussion session. Ma'am, let me put you the first question.
Yes, ma'am.
How does a translation keep one's style and terminology consistent while translating?
How does a translator keep it?
Translation.
How does translation keep its
Keep one's style and terminology.
okay, again for this, as I told you, the technique, if the person is going to use an appropriate technique for a translator, before he sits to translate, he has to know what is the technique which he can use, whether it's borrowing, whether it's Clark, whether it's transposition or whatever. He has to know it appropriately. Only when he knows, he'll be able to do justice to the work which he has taken, be it an idiom, be it meaning, be it saying anything. He has to follow certain methodology. Okay,
Thank
I don't
you,
know
ma'am.
if I answered your question.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question. What are the methodologies to be followed to bring out the best translation?
What are the
Methodologies to be followed.
to give a best translation work? Again, for translation, it's actually a field which is evolving. We cannot say this is the best strategy. Okay, the methodologies are evolving, so it depends upon the work which you take. If you're going to talk about an epic, if you're going to talk about things where, if you're going to talk about science translation, if you're going to talk about commerce translation, if you're going to talk about finance translation, there's no any particular method. There you need not follow culture. There you need not follow Paul Vinay or Jean Dabinet. Yes, so it depends upon the area of translation which you're going to do. There are many translation areas. As I told you, commercial translation is there. There's financial translation, because documents have to be translated, right? Earlier days, when you take a Pondicherry, all documents were written in French, and now it's all been translated to English and Tamil. Okay, so that has got its own. In linguistics, we used to say register and jargon. Remember, a similar way, certain financial documents or any other business-related translation is entirely different from literature piece of translation. Okay, so it depends upon whichever source text you're taking, whichever is your source to be translated. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question. Sometimes the real spirit of the literary work is lost in the process of translation. What are the things that the translator has to look out for to avoid this disconnectivity?
That disconnectivity cannot be resolved, because there's also another term called as untranslatability in translation, which means there are many aspects which cannot be translated, which has to be borrowed. Only when the translator borrows from the source text, he will do justice. Otherwise, again, there's another term in translation called as lost in translation. Definitely, the originality would be lost. It's very difficult for a translator to retain it and give it as it is, unless and until he knows the target language, the language style and culture, the structure of it. If he's not thorough with it, he'll not be able to do justice.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question.
Yes.
What is the role of tourism in cultural translation? Can tourism bridge cultural gaps?
Exactly. The cultural gap and tourism. Okay, we are talking about translation. When it comes to tourism, it becomes more of interpretation. Yes, are you with me? Whoever asked me this question. When you're going to take up a written work, then it becomes translation. If for tourists, translation, maybe it will help them to look out for places or buy things. Yes, so definitely this tourism will help in interpretation, but when it comes to translation, there might be gaps because there are certain methodologies which we have to follow when we are translating. That is why now 20th century, 21st century people, theorists are trying to come out with taking the entire concept based on culture and society. When this is being taken up full-fledged, your answer would not be either on translation or interpretation. People, as you said, tourism would be doing justice to this uh, area of interpretation. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Could you suggest any translation apps like Google Translator to get exposed to the field of translation?
As I told you, now you have, because now most of us are going to venture into making slides. You have the slide translator. Okay, so there are many apps there in translation, but everything is just for 1 month. After that, you'll have to stop your free trial and start paying them. Okay, only those premium versions has all that benefits apart from Google Translator. In the beginning, as I told you, your pronunciation should be really perfect in order to meet its needs. Okay, though it is a human who fed in, it is not universal. Okay, it is like it works for a particular team of a group of people. So there are apps. I'm also venturing into it, and as far as I know, it is Google Translator and the Slide Translator. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Which type of translation can be considered as a good translation? Which type? Is it word to word or literal translation?
Sense for sense translation, word to word or literal translation, both are the same. There's another type called as sense for sense translation. Only that will make sense. Raymond Jacobson, he has come out with 3 types. Those 3 types, based on that, sense for sense translation alone would be really effective. That can also suit for the person who asked me a question on translation, tourism and translation, right? So even there, it's sense for sense translation. Okay, always sense for sense translation. When you go for word translation, only in certain instances it can be done. Even then, the result wouldn't be 100%. Hope I've answered that.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Does the profession of translation hold a bright future?
Yes, it depends. Now, translators have a very bright future. Again, I would say not for a literary piece of work, but for you have a lot of online resource where and openings also where you have to translate medical transcriptionist. Yes, though we call it as BPO, there are a lot of things which happens across over the phone. And as I told you, even economic translation is there. You know, economic books which are translated is actually a separate field. You say science for one, and you say literature separately, and you say economic translation separately. But you have to really excel in each and everything. There are translation schools, like we have this computer centers. No, you have such centers, translation centers, who train you on such way or method of how to translate, and they themselves imbibe you into their concern or office.
Thank you, ma'am. The last one.
Yes.
Which is the best work in cultural translation?
Cultural translation is actually one aspect.
Okay.
So it's actually one aspect. When you take up translation, all aspects are into it. It's not only cultural and societal. All aspects are into it. You can find any literature work when you take. Culture will be there. Apart from that, you have various other aspects which is going to make the work wholesome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am, for the patient clarifications.
I don't know if I have answered your questions and if it is really meaningful, but still, I've just made an attempt to do that.
It's really meaningful, ma'am. Thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you.
Patient clarifications, ma'am. Vote of thanks. I will give thanks to you, Lord, with all my heart. I will tell of all your wonderful deeds. Psalm 9, verse 1. Gratitude is a fairest blossom which springs from the soul. At this juncture, I am happy to propose the vote of thanks. Foremost, I thank the Almighty for being with us throughout the session. I extend my sense of gratitude to Dr. Ramya Sambat for her wonderful presentation on the nuances of translation and its importance in literature. Thank you, ma'am, for the constructive session.
Thank you so much. Hope it was productive. Hope some kind of learning took place.
Yes, sure, ma'am. I am glad to thank our secretary, Dr. Sister Niranjana Andumisamy, for her prayerful support in all our endeavors. I am honored to thank our beloved principal, Dr. Sister Christina Bridget, who always brightens us up with her newfangled ideas and giving us this opportunity of imparting knowledge. I am indeed privileged to thank our head of the department, Dr. Sister Judy Gomes, a person with positive vibes and encouraging words who inspire us to experience an insightful understanding of new things. I especially thank and appreciate the participants for your patient listening and cooperation. A special word of thanks to all the staff members of the department who have contributed towards the success of this webinar. Thank you, one and all. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, children.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, thank you.
So can I leave?
Thank you. Pardon, ma'am?
Can I leave?
Yeah, you can leave, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you for the organizers.
Yeah,
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Participants, you are requested to fill in the feedback form which is put up on the chat box. Participants, before leaving, you are requested to fill in the feedback forms. Thank you. Participants, kindly fill in the feedback form before leaving the platform. Thank you.